Today I wanted to show you how to put together the Hexagon Classic Lantern by Simply Crafty SVGs. Now this is more of a classic look of a lantern, so I do have a bottom piece that we're going to start with first. You want to fold it on the score lines as shown. First we'll glue together the sides with the little side tabs. So you'll add glue to that little side tab and then fold over the adjacent side, making sure that that edge aligns with the tab fold. And you'll do that with all the other sides as well. So when I made this, I also have little panels you can put on the side. You can put that on before, or you could do it afterwards. Sometimes I put them on before because it's just easier to do it on a flat table. I just started assembling it and didn't put them on yet. It's no big deal if you do it second. And I'm using my little fine tip applicator with Scotch tacky glue to apply glue to the tabs. I like that glue because it dries quickly. You just want to be careful you don't get it anywhere past that fold, else it will show. I've tried many other glues, but so far this is the one I stick with consistently, but I do try other glues. So this will be the base for the Hexagon lantern. Again, I wanted to put a couple lanterns out that were more classic look, something you could use for any occasion, and this is one of them. So here's that last tab. And I always have a wet paper towel to wipe my fingers with because I do get a lot of glue on it. Had some glue on my hands there. I do recommend that. And you could use score tape or something like that to close this. So we're going to glue that piece down to the tabs there. Some people like using score tape. I'm going to use liquid glue. I'm just trying to get it open right now. So if you do use liquid glue, like with tacky glue, it is quick dry. This was a new bottle, so it was coming out a little heavier than I wanted it to. It dries rather quickly, so you want to put a little bit more without it rippling. So you can do this to get the excess off. I don't like to do that because of course I get it on my fingers. But if you need to, you can do that. I'd like to control the flow with the nozzle, but this was quite liquidy for some reason. So I always start with folding it over and applying pressure on the one side I put the glue on first, and then second, and so forth. So you just want to apply a little pressure, pushing down just lightly. Again, like a score tape or double-sided, really strong double-sided sticky tape like red line might work. And once I have it all glued, I'll just go ahead and apply pressure, kind of by rubbing it on the table. Then I'll go ahead and add all the little panels. Again, you could have done this before. I just forgot. So you want to just center it. You should have the same amount of space around each edge. And again, I was having trouble with my glue, but I did adjust because I didn't want it leaking out the edges. A little softer touch and gluing a little bit further in. So once we get this done, we'll put it aside and complete the other portions of the lantern, and then we'll assemble it, put it all together. What I did with these particular panels is I had a little, I wanted it kind of look like water or waves, but I didn't have any wave paper, and I didn't want to, I had a pattern paper that was kind of fun. So I inked the edges with distress oxides. Gave it a little bit of edge and a different couple little shading on the edge. And after we add this last panel, we'll start assembling the lid or the top of the lantern. So now we have this larger piece which will fold up. So I'm going to fold it in the scores, and you want to do that quite well. Make sure you have like crisp edges. I'm using that AC cardstock 80 textured 80 pound. You see that it'll kind of go together like that in the tabs to form the top, or the sides of the top I should say. But before that we want to add the panels so we don't have to put them on once it's assembled like we did the bottom. It is much easier. The only thing is if you do add the panels before you assemble it, you just want to be really careful. You don't want to get any glue obviously on the panels. So go ahead and center it. There is just a slight edge around that should be showing around the panel. Again, I did the same thing with these particular panels. I inked them just a little bit on the edges and a little bit in to give it a little blue shading. Once we get these last two on, we'll go ahead and start assembling the top. So now that we have it all together, we want to start gluing these tabs so that you can glue the sides together. So you want to add glue to that tab and then align the adjacent edge to the tab fold. And you can, when you're aligning it, you can run your finger over it to make sure if you visually can't really see it, and you want to make sure you can get it in place before your glue dries. Because I'm using a quick dry glue, I don't have that much time to spare, so I want to make sure it's aligned. So sometimes I use a slower drying glue on projects that I'm worried about, but this was a straight line, so you can pretty much get it lined up easily. And then as you secure them, you can apply pressure from outside and inside at the same time to make sure it's good and secure. And you can see it's forming the top sides of the lid. This last one, you just want to flip it in. I should have flipped it in before I glued, so I just pulled it off momentarily. And you can reach in, the fine tip applicator helps to reach in and apply glue, but you can always flip it over and try to get in that way too. This is where any kind of fine tip applicator that you have might come in handy. Tried a couple so far, and this one, at least for Scotch quick dry, it works quite well. Again, make sure you reach in there to apply pressure inside too when you're gluing these tabs. So next we'll make the top little section. So here's this little piece. We want to fold it on all the score lines. And then we'll add the panels like we've been doing, like we did with the larger piece. Now you can go ahead and opt out of putting these panels if you want a more classic look. So all these panels are optional. You might just want a basic white lantern. You could do that, or just add a little maybe a white with the base color, depending on if it's for a certain occasion, or a let's say if it were summertime, you might want to make it maybe a yellow with some embellishments for a beach, like maybe it could be something like a seaside theme or something like that. Anyways, it's flexible. You don't need to add the panels if you don't want. Or you could add a fun little pattern based on the occasion, or a birthday, wedding, anything really. Sometimes less is more, but I always like to add the panels just in case somebody wants it. So we go ahead and glue that one side, the one side tab to the other side. Again, matching up the edge with the tab fold. Then we're going to add glue to each of these little tabs, so we can fold over the top piece. As with the bottom, you just kind of go around. You can kind of do it all at once, but I like to get each side at once. Fortunately, you can reach in with your finger from inside to align it before it's secure. Another fun thing to put on the top of this after you have it embellished is maybe some flowers or something else on the top. You could add anything, or just keep it plain. So now I kind of folded the tabs in and then outward again, because what we are going to do is insert them inside this top piece and glue the tabs back to the inside of this larger lid piece. So it's going to go in like that. So to start, when I glue these type of pieces, I just glue one tab first because I want to get it as straight as possible. So we want to get this first one in, making sure that the fold, inside fold, aligns with that side. And usually what I do with hexagon, octagonal shapes is glue the opposite tab so it sets it in place. And again, try to glue it as best you can to make sure that that edge of the large piece aligns with the tab fold. I don't always do the greatest job, but if you're patient, you can get it, and then go ahead and glue the remaining tabs to the inside of the large piece after you have those two anchored. You can do it any way you want, but this is the way I do it. Those have been doing it a long time probably have other techniques. It is nice that you can reach in and apply the pressure from within as you're applying from outside. And that's what it looks like when it's glued. And next we're going to add the edge of the bottom part of the lid that will be inserted into the lantern to hold the lid in place. So there's this long piece. We want to go ahead and score, or I'm sorry, to fold on each of the scores. And we want to go back and forth because of the way we're going to glue it. We want it to be loose so it'll glue the opposite of the score. So we'll go ahead, we want to make sure that we glue this together first. So you want to glue the other side to the tab fold to create this little kind of circular, or sort of not circular, octagonal piece. And it's going to glue to the inside of that lip up there. So this is a little tricky, not gonna lie. We want to go ahead and align, put glue on one tab and align the tab fold. Being careful not to get glue too much anywhere. Make sure it aligns with one side and fold it in and hold. Now the reason we're doing it this way is we don't want the tabs to show on the lid piece, so they'll be hidden up here. The side effect of this is that you kind of have to glue all these tabs at once because it won't be easy to add glue to them after the fact. So if you want to use score tape, you can do that. Just be careful, make sure everything's folded in so you don't get it doesn't tape in the wrong place. So what I'm doing is I folded them out temporarily to put glue on them because I'm not using score tape. So this is trickier when you use glue. And I'm getting them enough glue so it won't dry before I finish. So I'm kind of doing this fast because I have a fast drying glue. This is a case where a slower drying glue would come in handy. And I want to make sure I go over the first tabs again. So now I'm going to go from the first tabs, I'm going to push them all in gently. If you get glue on your fingers, make sure you wipe it off. And I'm going to secure the opposite tab first, and then quickly go around, and I'm folding them in and down so they glue against the bottom portion of this little lip here. If you're not fast enough, your glue will dry. And if that's the case, it's not a simple solution. You probably can reach in with a fine tip applicator between the edges here to add glue. That would be my solution. But if you can do it all at once, it's just the way I put it together. I wanted it to look a certain way, which sometimes there's challenges putting them together when you want them to look a certain way. So you just want to make sure they're all secure, and then that finishes the lid off. So now we're going to put together these sides. So you want to go ahead and fold everything on the score lines gently. We have some really thin tabs on the side, so you want to be careful. One thing you'll notice is the tabs are always on the bottom of this box. So the top part, it has a larger space, and that's where the lid will come down. So these little panels will be centered. So you can put a vellum panel on the back. So you want to attach the vellum before, and it'll attach to the back of this, and then you can glue it on. But I opted not to add vellum panels on this. And do make sure I had my paper was the wrong way, my panels were the wrong way. So you want to add glue very lightly. So this is, again, if you don't have a fine tip applicator, you don't want to put a lot of glue because it's just going to leak on the sides. And then you want to center it here. Again, I do have vellum panels in the that you can use in the actual file. But you just want to do it, start at the bottom, I would say, is the easiest, and you're kind of eyeing it as you're moving it to make sure it's centered as best you can. You don't need to add any panels. It's really up to you what you want your lantern to look like. I think this just adds a little additional touch. And the benefit of pre-folding them, even though it's not flat, is that it helps you place the panels. Sometimes I can't see I don't use dashed, I use solid cut score lines, which you can with some machines. Not Cricut you can do a solid line, but because we have some solid files. Solid line files, but anyways, I have a solid line, so sometimes I can't see the score line as well as with the dash. So once you get the panels on, we're going to put together the two pieces by gluing that long tab on the side to the other piece. So just line up that edge with the tab fold and apply a goodly amount of pressure to make sure it's good and secure before you glue the second one. So you can just fold it over. So let's go ahead and add glue onto this tab. And because of the shape, you can pretty much fold it flat, which helps to glue this piece. Just make sure you line up that edge to the tab fold and line it up on the top and bottom. And then apply pressure again just to make sure it's secure. So here's an option. I'm going to glue the tabs inside, but you could glue them on the outside. If you don't want to see the tabs on the inside, glue them on the outside, because they'll be hidden once we attach it to the bottom base. But in this case, just by habit, I glued them on the inside. If you were not going to use the bottom base, which you can do, I might attach it this way so you can see the tabs on the bottom. But either way, I have another panel that you can, that's included with the file to hide the tabs. But when you're using the bottom base, I would say try to glue them to the bottom portion of this piece. But we go around and we're just going to make sure that each side is secure, lining it up the edge to the tab fold of each of the tabs. Unfortunately, if you don't have vellum, you can reach in and apply pressure. But if you do have vellum, you would just have to apply pressure this way, just by applying, like rubbing on each section and then rubbing it on the table. So you can see the tabs. We'll have an insert to put in there. So now let's go ahead and place it on the base. Now you want to center it best you can, so I usually add enough glue onto the bottom. I'm going to switch glue bottles so I can get a little bit more glue coming out. So don't get it too close to the edge because you don't want it to leak out if you're using liquid glue. Be kind of messy. I just want to make sure I had coverage. And then I didn't put it close to the edge either, so I can move it around just a little bit if I need to center it. So this is perfect from the top because I kind of put it there lightly and then made my adjustments. And then we just want to push lightly on the edge down to apply pressure to secure it to that bottom piece. Since it's hollow, we don't want to push too hard. And then here's this piece that we can put inside. You could glue it or not, just put a little bit of adhesive, but not a whole lot. You just want it to cover. That completes it. So you can add this size tea light. Always battery operated, of course. We don't want to burn the paper. I think the little taller one works a little bit better, as shown. And I just think it's a fun little lantern you can use for any occasion. I hope you enjoyed this project. Thanks for watching.